We're holding on page Samach Aleph Amud Aleph, page 61a, and we've been learning about how Adam Harishon was created. Was he created as a male or as a male and female? And we had two opinions. One is that he was created both male and female. The other opinion is that Hashem thought about creating a male and a female, but in the end, he created one, and from Adam's tail, so to speak, he created afterwards a female. And there's, of course, discussion as to what that means, a tail. It either actually physically means a tail. We do have a similar story in a Gemara in Megillah that talks about Vashti grew a tail, and that's why she didn't want to get naked when Achashverosh wanted her to come and present herself. And she didn't want to because she grew a tail. So we do find such a concept of having a human being having a tail. The truth is, the story of Nebuchadnezzar, I'd have to look into it if he actually, he acted like an animal, I think it says, for 7 years. I wonder if he grew any features like them. I have to look into that. But here we have that Adam Harishon possibly was created with a tail. And according to other opinion, it doesn't mean a tail, it means just an extra limb. Or according to a third opinion, it's possible to explain that the extra limb was what many translate the tzela as many of the English, I guess the common translation that people think is that it literally means Hashem created Adam, that Hashem took a rib from Adam, which the proper translation should be the side. Sela means the side also. It could mean a rib, but it also means the side, and that's how the common translators translate it. It means the side of Adam. And but there is such a view that's brought in the Ein Yaakov, that maybe one of the commentaries on the Ein Yaakov says that it actually was a rib. So there is such a view that it was actually the rib. Otherwise, it was just an extra organ or an actual tail. And then, of course, we have the main view, or I shouldn't say main, but the opposite opinion was that it was Hashem created Adam and Chava both as one person, and then he cut them in half. And yesterday we struggled a little because the term in the Gemara is partzuf. And partzuf literally means a face, which would imply that maybe the Gemara meant that Hashem just created the body of Adam, but he had an extra head maybe, or an extra face in the back of his head. And so that would seemingly fit the common translation of partzuf. But we saw that that you can't really learn it that way. We had two proofs. One was that it mentions Zachar unekeva baram, which is a pasuk, that male and female, he created them. And if it was just the head, it doesn't sound right to say he created Zachar and nekeva if she wasn't an actual female and it was just the head of the female. And then we had, and so the Gemara seems to understand that pasuk fits very well, Zachar unekeva baram. And the fact that the Gemara understands that pasuk fits very well, it implies that when it says partzuf, which literally means face, it doesn't only mean a face, it really means the whole body, that there was a female body attached to Adam Harishon's body, and the body was cut in half. And the same thing applies later, where the Gemara mentions about Vayivan, that he built. The Gemara is bothered with what did he have to build? What did Hashem have to build if Eve was already created? Now, if you just learn it was the head, then that's not such a strong question. What did he have to build? He had to build a whole body for Eve. Obviously, the Gemara's understanding partzuf, which literally means face, it was obviously a full body, and what he had to build. So the Gemara explains that he braided her hair. So she was a full body, and all he did was cut the bodies in half. But Hashem did braid her hair to make her enticing or attractive to Adam Harishon. So the
Rabbi,
yes.
it says in the Chumash, it says male and female, he created them.
Yeah.
And then after that, it is the verses of the actual creation of Eve. So even before she was created, it says that he created them, male and female. So my question is, was that because the Torah doesn't go in chronological order, or because he created the male and female even in the start, in the beginning, and then afterwards he separated them? In other words, it is in chronological order. He created the male and female, and then after that, he went through the details of the creation of Eve. You follow that? What I'm saying?
Yeah. So let's see. Male and female, he created them. If you want to learn that it means that he created two bodies attached to each other, and then later he divided them, and so that would seem to fit very well. And then if you want to learn, it means that what does it mean? He created them means he thought of creating them separately, but he didn't. And so Zachar Unakeva Bara means in Marcheshvan. So either way, you could learn your way. I will be honest with you, Rashi does seem to see it as a contradiction. And Rashi, surprisingly, says that, the pasuk later is explaining the details of the story that happened before. But the question is, why does Rashi need to do that? It would seem that, that Zachar and Nekeva Baram, but they still weren't separated yet. And maybe you could just learn simply that way. So the commentaries are discussed that Rashi, how to, why he wants to, why he bothers him. Yes, Avraham.
I see it as if they were created spiritually, first of all, a blueprint, as it were, and then they followed the blueprint and manifested the physical bodies, if they were physical.
Right. Well, for sure they were physical, because creation is physical, and that's the whole point of this world. But the way what you're saying sort of fits with what our Gemara had said, that B'tchila ala b'machshava, that Hashem thought of creating them in separate entities, Zachar and Nekeva, and in the end he decided to create Adam with an extra limb. So in other words, it is like in a spiritual sense, there was some level of creation, because machshava, thought, is some, it does have some element there of like spiritual idea that Hashem had in mind. And but in practice, Hashem, according to the way the Gemara explains it here, Hashem ended up creating Adam with an extra limb, and then he built from that limb a person. But if you learn the other way, that he created both Adam and Eve, it actually means physically, not just spiritually. In other words, the simple way of reading that pasuk, Zachar unekeva baram, he created male and female, it means physically that there was two bodies, a physical male and body and a female body attached to each other, and they were physical. It wasn't just in a spiritual sense. But the spiritual option is if you learn the other opinion, that it was an extra limb. So how do you translate the pasuk? It says male and female, he created them. So then you could say it means in like a spiritual way, meaning that it was there was a thought, there was an idea to create them in that sense. Okay, so in any event, bottom line, after I'm bringing up all these the issue, the challenge that we had yesterday of trying to figure out the concept of partsuf, and basically seeing from our Gemara that the partsuf that our Gemara refers to seems to mean a full body. And actually, the Aruch translates partsuf as a body. So even though in modern Hebrew, partsuf means a face, but the Aruch translates partsuf to be a body or a figure. And based on that, that's how the Gemara is understanding it, it seems. The question that I had was, why does the Gemara want to understand it that way? Why doesn't it just understand partsuf as a face? And it would answer a few of the, one of the questions would have been answered if you learn it that way. In other words, what is the proof that partsuf means a body? But I think the proof is from the fact that it says Zachar unekeva baram. That, in other words, the reason to say that Hashem created two bodies and follow this view that Adam and Chava were both created. Why would someone want to learn that way? Because it fits two psukim. One is the Vayetzer, the extra yud, and the other is Zachar unekeva bara. He created male and female. So if you want to really reconcile those two psukim, be able to explain them on a simple level, the simplest way to explain it is that it wasn't just a face. Zachar unekeva bara is probably the source, that he created a male and a female, and that's why we're learning this way, that Adam and Eve were both created. So that's why that would be the reason why, even though it says partsuf, it would mean the full body, because the whole point of this opinion is to explain and interpret that verse that says Zachar unekeva baram, that he created them male and female. It means that there was a full male and a female. There was a female there. That wasn't just the head. Okay, so bottom line is we explained the pasuk Vayetzer, that it has an extra Vayetzer, it has an extra yud, and we had two ways of explaining it. One way was the first way the Gemara proved wrong. The first way was that there's a Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara, and that was two yuds. Initially, the Gemara thought meant to imply that Hashem created humans with two yuds, meaning two yetzers, two inclinations. And then the Gemara says, but then that wouldn't fit, because what about an animal? And animals also seem to have a yetzer hara, they have an evil inclination. So the Gemara therefore said that vayetzer is an insight from Reb Shimon ben Pazi, that the vayetzer, I should say, is to emphasize that the person is doomed no matter what. He's oily miyotzri, oily miyitzri. He's either going to be punished if he listens to his Yetzer Hara, or he's going to suffer if he doesn't listen to his Yetzer Hara from the workings of the Yetzer Hara trying to get him to sin. So oily miyotzri, oily miyitzri, so that's the vayitzer, the two yuds. And then the other explanation of Vayitzer was this point, this explanation that Hashem created du partsufim. Du means two, partsufim, which we initially were, the simple meaning is faces, but we're translating it as bodies, two figures. And Hashem created Adam Arishon, and that's what it says, Achar v'kedem tzartani, which is also seemingly a pasuk emphasizing this idea that there's the front, the back, and the front that Hashem created or formed. And so that is the other way of understanding Vayitzer, is that there's a male and a female in the same creation, in this same Adam, and attached to Adam. And then the Gemara said that we see there's an argument. These two opinions are based on an argument between Rav and Shmuel, which it says Hashem built the Selah, the side of Adam, into a female. So one of them says, of course, it means there was the the side of Adam was a female, and Hashem just separated them. And the other opinion is that there was actually a extra limb or a tail that was formed into Eve, into the woman. Now, then the Gemara asks about how do you translate Achar v'Kedem, back and front, he formed them. If you just say it was a tail, why is it emphasizing back and front that he formed them? So the Gemara answers that it means that Adam is considered the last to creation, but the first for punishment. And the Gemara went through a discussion about that. Where do we find that Adam is first to punishment? He wasn't first to punishment when it came to the curse given for the sin of the tree of knowledge, but we do find he's first for punishment. Humans are first for punishment when it came to destroying, by the flood, the destruction of the world. Man was the first. It says, "May Adam ad behema." So man was the beginning of punishment. Then the Gemara, yes.
The punishment was given to the man before the snake, or after this punishment to the snake?
Well, the curse that Hashem said for the punishment for the snake was first, and then Adam, then afterwards was Chava, and then was Adam. So the Gemara then says that what about this pasuk Zachar unekeva baram? That pasuk, male and female, he created them, seems to fit very well if you say that Hashem created double, created Adam and Chava attached to each other. Then it makes sense. Zachar, he created male and female. But if you say the other explanation, how do you translate male and female? He created them, and on that, the Gemara explained that the tchila ala b'machshava, there was a thought to create two separate entities, and in the end, he created only one, and that one had a tail or had an extra limb, and that's how this opinion will learn Zachar and Nekeva Baram, that there was a thought to create male and female. Yes, Ben.
In the dictionary, B'Tselem says image or likeness. That would mean that not necessarily all the internal organs were the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you could have had something extra that was cut out to create the female.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why the Gemara doesn't bring that pasuk here to prove either way.
Yeah.
Right? I guess your insight sounds like a good insight, because why doesn't the Gemara bring that pasuk that would seemingly be a good proof to sway this argument one way or the other?
Yeah.
So it sounds like a good explanation. Thank you, Ben. Yeah. Sounds good. So the Gemara then says, how do you translate the words Vayiskar Basar Tachtena, that Hashem closed up the skin under it? If it was just an extra organ, it would probably heal on its own. In other words, it was probably like slightly attached, and you just like break it off like two challahs. You just they sometimes attach themselves in the oven when you bake together. So they snapped off the extra little limb, created a female from it. So why does there need to be Hashem have to close up that that hole? It was probably attached by a little membrane or something, and if you hold it was a full body, then that's a huge area to have to close up. So what does it mean by Yiskar Basar Tachtena? He closed up the flesh under it. So that the Gemara says that that even though it was a tiny area to close up, if you hold it was just a tail, but nevertheless, Hashem did it. He didn't want there to be an area where it would be some type of an embarrassment or remembrance that she is part of that she came from Adam, and it would maybe be cause there to be a negative feelings if it wasn't hidden. So therefore Hashem closed up that area, so there shouldn't even be a scar, should be any marking. And then the Gemara mentions about the
Rabbi,
yes.
I wanted to know if any of the commentaries talk about the idea of a tail. It seems like the tail was there and then it was not there, like it was useful or not useful. And what happened? Like what was the purpose, and what was the purpose of taking it away?
Well, it was to make Eve.
Oh,
That was the goal. But don't tell your wife that,
so why the tail instead of just the side interpretation, to cut from the side?
Well, the side just means where the tail was.
No, I'm talking about the side, like Siamese twin sides. So if he sliced them down the middle and separated them, how did the tail interplay?
No, so there's two opinions here. One opinion is there was Siamese twins. There was two full bodies, and they had to slice it down. The other opinion is no, it wasn't Siamese twins. It was one man, and he actually had an extra limb, which possibly means literally a tail. So two separate opinions. In other words, the opinion that says it was a male and female attached to each other. There was no tail.
I get it.
Rabbi,
Yes, Moshe.
is this maybe this is not, this is not in reality, in the sense that if this is, in other words, man separated from animal and no longer had a tail. This is what this seems to appear as being, that there was no longer an animal, because an animal's got tail, and then you have a man who doesn't have it. You understand that this is already the evolution moving into the human, that part that's separating from animals. You see, that's what it looks like to me on a different level.
Nice thought. Yeah, nice thought. Moshe is thinking very deeply into this, and thinks that there's very nice insight that maybe this was emphasizing to maybe this was to emphasize to Adam that he's meant to grow out of being the animal, and he's supposed to concentrate on being a human, higher than an animal. And that was the meaning of having his tail cut off, that you're no longer, you have a side of you that's animalistic, but your goal is to not take that path. Interesting. Very nice, Moshe. Okay. So the Gemara continues and says that what is the meaning of that Hashem built from this side? What is the meaning that he built Eve from the side? If he didn't build her from the side, he just sliced it off. It was just we didn't have to build her. She was fully there. So the Gemara answers that it means that Hashem braided her hair, and the term for braiding could also be binyan, vayiven. It also fits with that word, vayiven. So the word to build. Now, then the Gemara mentions that there's another meaning of the word vayiven, that he built her in a form that she would be fit to hold a baby. So that's what vayiven is. That made sure that Hashem built her a binyan oitzer, similar to a binyan oitzer, like the way they would have a pile of grain, and a storage pile of grain, and or storage house of grain, where they would have some type of a narrow area on the top and would get wider and wider, and that would be beneficial for Eve, for to hold the child. And then it says he brought her to Adam, and that is how Hashem became a Marcheshvan, a good friend of the chassan, a good friend of the groom, to bring the bride and connect and bring her to him. And the Torah teaches us derech eretz, that it's appropriate to even humble yourself to to be a shoshvin, to be this, like a helper for the chassan, for the groom.
Best man.
Best man. Okay, thank you. So the Gemara now asks a question. Let me tell you where we're holding. Ulamanda Amar Partsuf. We are the third wide line. That means that we're like 3/4 down the page on 61A. We're at the third wide line. The lines get wider, and we're in the third wide line. Ulamanda Amar Partsuf Haimi Naihu Sagi Beresha. According to the opinion that Adam was created with another body attached, Eve. So there was a body of Eve attached to him. So the simple understanding of this Gemara is that Adam faced east and Eve faced west. And they were back to back. And the question is, so who decided where to go? Did Adam call the shots, or did Eve call the shots? Who was the main one who would go first? So back to back. I mean, it seemed like maybe she could go first or he could go first. So who? So the Gemara asks, "Hai minayu sagi beresha," which one of them would walk first? And the Gemara says, "Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok mistabra the gavra sagi beresha." It would make sense that the man is the one who walked first. And the Gemara says the Tanya, because we learned in a Brisa, a person is not supposed to go behind a woman on the way, which means that a person shouldn't walk directly behind and close to a female, and vafilu ishtai, and even if it's his wife. And the reason for that is
the pressure in the eye, like
the reason for that is that a person shouldn't go after walk after a female, is because he will have negative thoughts about watching her, the way she walks and how she moves, and it could give him improper thoughts. And then the Gemara says even one's wife, which of course a person is allowed to see his wife, but the point is that I guess in the public it's not appropriate to walk that you would walk behind even one's wife. And now nizdamnaloi al hagesher yisal kenel etstadim. If it happened on a bridge, he should have her go to the side so that he could pass in front of her. And in other words, if there's a married woman, and here it doesn't necessarily mean his wife, here it means someone else. In general, you don't walk behind your wife, but in a case where where it's in a bridge, it's not a problem. But if it's someone if it's someone else, then it's actually not appropriate, and you should try to go, even though it's a bridge, which normally we would say it's okay with one's wife, but in a scenario where it's someone who's a married woman, you should try to go in front. So Yisal Kena Litzdadin, you would have her go to the side, turn her to the side, and remove her to the side and go in front. And anyone who goes after a woman by a river, when she's passing through a river, doesn't have a portion in the world to come. And the reason is because a woman by a river would lift up her clothes so they wouldn't get wet. And if a person was going there, he would possibly see her flesh. And And therefore, a person who does that doesn't have a portion in the world to come. Tosfos over here says it doesn't mean if he once looks at some inappropriate thing, he loses his whole portion in the world to come. Tosfos over here says that it means that if he's rugil, if he's often doing this, looks at things that are inappropriate, then in the end he'll end up committing adultery. And
he
in the
keeps
end,
at it.
what is that?
If he keeps at it.
Keeps at it. Keeps at it. If he does it often, so in the end he will end up committing adultery and fall into Gehenna, into hell. And that's why it's always important for a person to have clean thoughts and pure thoughts, and not to look at anything inappropriate. And of course, these things are, as we know nowadays, a lot of many people are addicted to these. They look once, twice, and a few times, and they get addicted, and that becomes a horrible addiction and very dangerous for marriage and so on. And so our Gemara tells us a person has to sort of like make a fence around these things, and by how does one control themselves? They shouldn't be looking in the first place and doing things in the first place that might cause one to look, which means not walking after, not even after one's wife, not to walk after behind one's wife. And so therefore, the Gemara understands that when it comes to when it came to creation and Adam and Eve, while they were, for those moments until Eve was actually separated, while they walked, Adam must have been the one who walked first, because otherwise he would have been walking after Eve. Now you could ask, but he was back to back, so he didn't even see her walking. But nevertheless, the concept of a man walking after a woman is what we see is inappropriate, even if it's his wife, and therefore the Gemara assumes that he must have been the one who walked first, and Eve must have followed, walking backwards with Adam. Okay, so the Gemara then continues and says that Tano Rabbanon, the rabbis learned, Hamartze Ma'is Leisha, a person who counts out money to a woman, miyadai liyada, from his hand to her hand, kadei lehistakel ba, in order to gaze at her, afilo yesh biyadai Torah ma'asim tovim k'moshe Rabbeinu, even if he has in his hand Torah, good deeds, like Moses, lo yanaka medina shel Gehenim, he will not be cleansed from the judgment in Gehenim. Shenamar, as it says, yad liyad, that lo yanaka ra, lo yanaka medina shel Gehenim. So there's a pasuk in Mishlei in Proverbs that yad, hand to hand, will not be cleansed of bad, which means he won't be cleansed of from going into hell. And what does this mean, yad liyad? It means, so Rashi over here says, even if he's like Moshe Rabbeinu that received the Torah from the right hand of Hashem, lo yanake ra, the pasuk says he will not be cleansed of bad. He's so the idea is that if he counts out money, even if he has mitzvahs like Moshe Rabbeinu that got the Torah from Hashem's right hand, it won't help him. So yad is counting out money. Liyad, even if he's similar to Moshe who got from the hand of Hashem, or I guess both yads could probably refer to Moshe. Yad liyad, Hashem gave the Torah to Moshe. So yad liyad, even if he's like Moshe who got it from hand to hand, from Hashem's hand to his hand, lo yanake ra, he's not going to be cleansed from the evil, because he ultimately is deserving of punishment because he had in mind to, in other words, he positioned himself to gaze at this woman. That is inappropriate. So what we see here is how important it is for a person to make sure to look at only holy things and pure things, and not get enticed by all the billboards
Rabbi,
that are out there trying to be your Yetzer Hara. Yes, Moshe.
Rabbi. Well, we look at David. This is a juxtaposition with David HaMelech doing, looking at something that was inappropriate. I mean, this is really something that seems to have, has an effect on us, may even have an effect on us today, with what's happening, to some degree.
So the story with David was, it's interesting that you bring it up. The story with David was that that Bathsheba was actually very nious, and what happened was the Yetzer Hara caused the wind to blow, and he happened to be upstairs. Not that he was looking specifically for a beautiful woman. He wasn't looking around with binoculars into other people's bedrooms, but the Yetzer Hara caused Satan caused her clothing, the window shade to move away, the wind to blow it, and she became visible to him, and he sort of like was framed into this, and but it's not like he was going to look. It wasn't. The Argamar is talking about where a person is specifically sees a nice-looking woman who's a money changer, and he says, you know what, let me change some money so that I'll get a few moments of being able to gaze at her. So that is what Argamar says is, you're doing this in order to gaze at her. That would be inappropriate. The next Gemara mentions something along the lines of what we were discussing now, of the father of Shimshon, how he went after his wife. So was that considered something wrong? So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman, Manoyach Ama Aretzai. So Rav Nachman says that Manoyach, the father of Shimshon HaGibor, Samson's father, he was an Ama Aretz. He was not scholarly. He was ignorant. T'chsiv, as it says, Vayelech Manoyach Achri Ishtai. He went after his wife. Now, of course, Gemara before was mentioned that this is not even Ishtai, meaning that not the actual sin of what we were referring to, but it's not appropriate to do, and not proper etiquette. And but by Manoyach it says that he went after his wife. So we see that he didn't learn this teaching of the rabbis. So the Gemara calls that an Am Haaretz, because he didn't know this teaching about not to walk after his wife, because the verse in Shoftim in the book of Judges mentions that Manoyach went after his wife. So Maskif lo Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok, so Rav Nachman. So the first Rav Nachman was Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. This is Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok says that can't be. Ela meyata, according to what you're saying, according to your words, Gabe Elkanah, the father of Shmuel, his name was Elkanah. That it says about him, it does say about Elkanah that he went after his wife. We got Gabe Elisha, and by Elisha it says he went after this Isha Hashunamis, that when she came to tell Elisha that her son died, so he went after her, it says. So Hachinami, Mamash, do you think it means that he went after her? You're going to say that Elkanah and Elisha, they both went after women? Ella acharei dvareha v'acharei atzasa. It doesn't mean he walked after her, following in her footsteps, and stood right behind her and was looking at her and so on. It means he went after what she said, come here. She was telling him, go. She went after her words and after her advice. Hachanami here also with Manayach. Acharei devareha ve'acharei eitzasa. After her words and after her eitzah, her advice. That's why that it says that he went. Same thing would apply to Manayach. Not that he was an Am Haaretz. He went after her words. That she said, "Come with me." He went with her. Yes.
Yeah. But then that's a problem because it says Vayakom Vayelech, which means he got up and he went. So you can't use that terminology to talk about following her words, her eitzah. If it had said Vayelech, you might be able to argue the case, but it said Vayakom Vayelech.
No, it does mean physically that he went, but did he walk after her footsteps? It means after she said to go. In other words, does it mean after her words or after her physical body? That's what the Gemara is discussing. No, but you're right, he did walk. No, they all walked. But the question
what I'm saying is that the one who said it means that he went after her advice or he followed her words. He said the word Vayakom is a problem for the person who says that. Because Vayakom is a physical act. He got up.
He did, but he did do a physical act and he did walk. And it's telling you that he walked. But did he walk after her physical body or after her words? That's the question. What does the acharei refer to? Does it mean it physically? Yes, he walked. He walked. He got up and he walked after her words. After she said what she said, he walked and went to that place. But did he walk after her body? Did he follow her body, or did he follow her words? So the Gemara, Nachman bar Yitzchok says it doesn't mean what you're thinking, that he went and followed her, walked exactly following her footsteps and her body. It rather means he followed her advice, or followed her words, or followed her statement, point. So that's I don't know that it's a problem by Yaakov. I mean, it does refer to him walking for sure. It is a physical walking. Now the Gemara continues and says, Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, according to Rav Nachman, that he was an Am Haaretz, afilu bei Rav Nami loikod. He didn't even learn in a little school. A children doesn't know what, because as it says, Vatakom Rivka v'Narisa v'Tekabna Lagmalim. That it says about Rivka that she got up in her aids, Narisa v'Tekabna Lagmalim. They rode on the donkeys, on the camels. V'Telachna acharei ha'ish, and they went after the person. Now, why does it say they went after the ish? Seems extra, but it's teaching you that after the man, women go. Women shouldn't walk in front of a man, because the man is not supposed to walk behind a woman. So the point is that you have it even in a pasuk. Commentaries speak out over here. One of the commentaries emphasizes that what this Gemara means to say is that obviously Manoach was not a Am Haaretz, because if he was, if you think that Manoach did the wrong thing, then it wasn't just he didn't follow a previous statement of the rabbis that of this brisa. It's even in Chumash. You even see a hint of this, at least in Chumash. So obviously Manoach didn't do that. He obviously went after his wife's words, but not after. He didn't walk after his wife. Yes, Ben.
But there can be another question. Why don't they say Vayelchu, that they both they walked or they went? Why do they have to say behind her? In Manoach and in the Navi's case.
It doesn't say that he walked behind her. He's after she said that he walked. He went. He followed what she said. She might have walked behind him. They didn't walk together. She walked behind him.
But they say that he was behind her.
The simple reading is he was behind her.
Right.
Gemara explains that doesn't mean that.
Why don't they say they walked?
But
Because
Rabbi,
they did walk together.
Rabbi,
One of them
isn't
walked
the
first.
story, isn't the story that she saw the angel?
Right.
She went back to get her
To get
husband.
him. Yeah.
She knew the way. He didn't know the way. Therefore, he walked, quote unquote, behind her because
So
she knew the way. She knew how to go. He
Right.
didn't. Even
Right.
if he were to walk next to her, she could take it. And, he continues walking. She goes in a different way and he's lost. So
Right.
I think the reason why it says, "Vayelech achare,"
Mhm. Right.
why he went after his wife is because she knew the way. She took the lead.
Right. So you want to say that he didn't walk behind her footsteps, but she was walking in the front, at least showing where he saw, where did she see the angel directing him to the right place. Now he didn't really follow her steps, but she might have led the way. You could maybe learn that way, but I don't know if it's such a it definitely has to be that way. In other words, he knew where she was working outside in the field, and so he knew where to go. She said, I just saw him. He was where I was working. So he might have, after her words, he went, and she might have followed after him. He might have gone faster than her. I don't know. But it could be. I hear what you're saying, Ezra. I'm just saying possibly.
But here it causes for an argument. It causes to an argument between them. So it wasn't written the right way, or they didn't do it the right way.
Well,
one or the other.
It could be that that's the term that we see is used often when you follow someone's words. That's the term used. He goes after Vayelach acharei ishtai.
Then one understands it the wrong way.
That's part of life. There's always going to be. It's good to know that there's always going to be people who are going to understand things wrong. It's teaching you a very good lesson. That you have to be very clear, otherwise there's going to be
careful,
people. Yeah. People will understand you wrong. Okay. So anyway, the Gemara continues, and it says a statement from Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Acharei ari." You should go after a lion. Acharei isha. Don't go after a woman. You shouldn't walk. Better to go after a lion, even though that's a suffix sakana. It's a danger. But better to do that than to go after a woman. Now, what does that mean? If the lion kills you, well, you lost this world. But if you go after a woman, you could lose the next world. It's better to go after a woman than to go after idol worship. Now, and the reason is because even if you want to sin with her, maybe she won't listen. But idol worship, who's going to stop you? And better to go after acharei avodas mazolos.
No, you skipped one, Rabbi.
Again, acharei isha v'lo acharei avodas mazolos. Better to go after a woman than idol worship. Acharei avodas mazolos v'lo acharei beis hakneses. Better to do that than to go behind a shul b'shasha atzibur mispalim when the shul is davening, because if you do that, it looks like you are removing the yoke of heaven and embarrassing the Beis HaKnesses, the shul. Now, surprisingly, that's worse than going after idol worship, because by going after idol worship, it's only like a thought that maybe it's going to have some type of effect. You might end up getting attracted to it. But here, it looks like you are denying God. You are rebelling, so to speak. Yeah.
In your Gemara, you have acharei akum umazalot, because mine just says akum.
Well, akum I have with two dots, with two with two lines. So
Yeah.
avodas kechavim umazalos. That's how.
Is that what it means?
Yeah, generally when it has the two lines. If it just said akum, I would have read it like you. But I have akum with. Do you have the two lines there? Akum with
Yeah,
the two
yeah,
lines,
yeah,
the
yeah.
apostrophe, the.
No, I always thought it meant Avodat Kochavim, and that was it.
No. Avodas kechavim umazalos. Yeah. So okay. So the Gemara says midi, and this doesn't apply.
That makes sense. Above mem at the end.
Yeah, right, of course. So
of course,
the Gemara
I never
said,
knew this either.
uh-huh. All right, we finally taught you something new, Isaac.
You taught me lots of things that I knew, Rebbe.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to get any other impression.
The Gemara. Well, we definitely learned patience from you, Isaac. If this is something, it took a long time to have something new. You have a lot of patience. So the Gemara says that that we never said that this is prohibited only in a case of where you're not carrying anything. You're not carrying anything. But if you're carrying something, it's not a problem to walk behind a shul. Less lon ba, you don't have this issue. Also, we never said this issue about walking behind a shul only in a case where there's no other door. But if there is another door, it's not an embarrassment to the shul because the person will think that you're probably entering the other door of the shul. And also, we never said this law about walking behind a shul only in a case where you're not riding on a donkey. If you're riding on a donkey, it's not a problem because a person knows or will understand that you're busy watching your donkey. And I guess donkeys would take off if you leave them there. And therefore, they understand that you have nothing against the shul. You just need to watch your donkey. And we never said this law either. If only in a case where you're not wearing tefillin, if you're wearing tefillin, then we are sure the tefillin show that you must be busy doing mitzvahs, and it's not like you are rebelling against Hashem and not going to shul.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Can I take a minute and tell you this note in the Steinsaltz?
Of course, that's what we're here for. Got to hear good stuff.
So it's this is from the Maharsha.
Yeah.
And it says behind the lion, but not behind the woman, behind the woman, not behind idolatry. So he says to understand this order, one should note that King David, who killed the lion, sinned as a result of looking at the woman. Therefore, being behind the woman is more perilous than being behind the lion. The sages already said that it's more difficult to distance oneself from idolatry than from any other transgressions. However, it's conceivable that one who worships idolatry also acknowledges Hashem's existence. One who fails to pray in the synagogue, however, indicates that he has no connection to Hashem whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you for so it gives a little understanding of the so what was that with David HaMelech? That so he initially had killed a lion, and but then he fell into a trap of the woman, and so it's following his life. Is that the reason for that order? Is that what it means? I mean,
it seems to say that he had the ability to kill the lion, but he didn't have the ability.
He wasn't able to control.
Right.
In other words, the desire for a woman is stronger than murdering a lion. It's easier to murder a lion with your hands, with your bare hands, than to control your desire for a woman. Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah. And this is even somebody as strong as David HaMelech.
Even someone as strong as David HaMelech. In both physically and his spiritual strength.
Right.
But